So Crypto Universe, I'm back with another video, and today we have some earth-shattering, face-melting, moonshot material here. Breaking news as of earlier this afternoon from Paul Bearing. Ripple and Coinbase are now in a bidding war to buy Circle. Sources say that Ripple has the upper hand with a $9 to $11 billion price tag. I repeat, Ripple and Coinbase are in a bidding war for Circle. Circle is for sale, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't understand the significance of this situation, Circle is the company behind the stablecoin USDC. USDC is the second biggest stablecoin on the planet. They have a daily trading volume of $14 billion, meaning that people on a daily basis are exchanging over $14 billion worth of USDC across the different exchanges throughout the planet. This is a massive deal. And the question could be which one of these companies will come out with Circle in the end, if Circle ends up selling at all. It could be Coinbase, but at the same time, and this is where my bias comes in, I would definitely prefer for it to be Ripple. I'm not gonna pretend like I don't have a bias there. I definitely do have a bias when it comes to that. Like, I would prefer Ripple to get it just because of the implications of what that could mean for Ripple, the XRP ledger, and potentially XRP. There's no guarantee that this would also have a no pun intended, a ripple effect on XRP, but at the very least, this would be major for obviously the company Ripple as well as the XRPL. Currently, you can send USDC through over Ethereum's blockchain as well as Algorand. I think there may be one or two other blockchains you can send USDC on. I'm not 100% sure, but I know for a fact you can send USDC via Ethereum or Algorand. I prefer to do it through Algorand because Algorand is much cheaper and it's actually fast. But once you bring in Ripple into the picture, I imagine Ripple has plans. If they get it, they have plans in place of also providing an option where you can also send USDC through the XRP ledger. All of that money, billions of dollars potentially being transacted, being sent on the XRP ledger, that big influx. We don't know for sure if it would actually have a direct reflection on XRP and its price, but it's still something that would get you extremely optimistic. And another piece of news that is very bullish for Ripple is a few days ago, the media office of Dubai put out a article explaining their ambitions when it comes to expanding digital payment, the digital payment infrastructure within Dubai and within the UAE. And popular social media influencer and researcher Riz XRP pointed out a very important part of this article where it says Ripple is now set to power cross-border payments in the United Arab Emirates, tapping into a $400 billion market. Again, guys, $400 billion. Now, that doesn't mean that Ripple would actually would tap into every last dollar, but at the same time, you're talking about, even if they tap into a fraction of that, that's, again, still you're talking tens, possibly hundreds of billions of dollars going through the XRPL, which obviously is a big deal. Keep in mind, Ripple already, 20% of its customers are already based out of the Middle East. At that point, you're talking about Ripple having a very serious stronghold on the Middle East. We all know that Ripple has about roughly 300 or 400 partnerships with different banks and institutions. You're seeing now reports alleging that Ripple is in a bidding war to buy Coinbase. So now you're talking about people potentially using USDC every day, not even knowing that it's being run by the people that own Ripple, and it's USDC will now be sent over to XRPL. Like, there's a lot to be excited about for the potential of where XRP could be going and what that could mean for our investment. And speaking of which, as of today, XRP ETFs are officially live. Here is a screenshot from Brad Garlinghouse. The launch of regulated XRP futures on CME Group marks a key institutional milestone for XRP, and very excited to report that Hidden Road cleared the first block trade on CME at opening. So futures, XRP futures are officially live. This is a big deal. You're talking about another way to not only bring money to the XRPL, but also another way to help get people excited for not just looking at it based on speculation and based on what they think the company Ripple may do, but another way that they could actually use XRP in real life, because there's still not that many people actually using it on a regular basis, which is I don't want to get too much on I don't want to go too much on a tangent when it comes to Flare, but then I talked about Flare yesterday, and wow, I was excited about Flare Network's plan to help bring DeFi to XRP, to continue to add different ways and different things that could bring people to the XRP ledger instead of just people who are no offense, but people who are just focusing on hype and conspiracy theories about 589. Not saying it can't do that, but just saying I'd rather see real results and not just the conspiracy theories. And it looks like we're seeing real results now. The conspiracy theories were cool at first, but obviously over time it starts to become a bit tiring. But still, major news regarding stablecoins. Today is the day that the Senate in the United States will be voting on the Genius Act, which is a bill that would begin to bring the regulatory framework to the idea of a stablecoin in the US, which is major. This is a post from Senator Bill Hagerty, and it reads next week, well, now today actually, the Senate will make history when we pass the Genius Act that establishes the first ever pro growth regulatory framework for payment stablecoins. This bill will cement US dollar dominance, protect innovation in the digital asset space, is in the hands, make sure that it's in the hands of the United States of America, not our adversaries. So, again, guys, major things are happening. Again, in this space, things move extremely fast, and my camera's falling, but I don't want to even stop at this point. Another post here from Zero Hedge. Deutsche Bank's outlines stablecoins' role in ensuring U.S. dollar supremacy, which goes back to the Genius Act. It would be in their best interest to try to make sure they pass the Genius Act and not go out of their way to stifle the digital asset space more than they already have with some of their decisions, such as the SEC's lawsuit against not just Ripple but several different companies and people. And this coin, of course, would start to get them in the right direction when it comes to trying to get ahead before it's too. Again, you got to try to get ahead of this before it is too late. Last thing I wanted to get into here was actually a story it broke from Watcher Guru, and apparently there is a class action lawsuit against Michael Saylor and his company's strategy, his company's MicroStrategy, or better known as Strategy. And the lawsuit is alleging that he was misleading. He had misleading statements about Bitcoin's strategy. And Michael Saylor, for you guys that don't know, is what some people would call a Bitcoin maxi, or in other words, a Bitcoin maximalist, or in other words, a person who believes Bitcoin is the end all be all and tries to downplay and bash every other coin that is not Bitcoin. But either way, this is a major deal. This is a major situation, and digital asset investor here pointed out a very good point when he said, hey, the liability of investing corporate money into an asset with an unknown creator is massive. Because technically, nobody knows who Satoshi is to this day, allegedly. I think there's plenty of people out there who knows who it is or who they are, but it's still not publicly known. who or what entity is behind Bitcoin. But either way, plaintiffs in the class action lawsuit allege that Strategy and Saylor himself exaggerated Bitcoin returns while downplaying cryptocurrency market volatility. The legal this legal filing specifically mentions various public statements regarding Bitcoin as an alternative to the US dollar and other traditional currency options. So that goes back to the problem with a lot of Bitcoin maxis that makes people feel like they rubbed them the wrong way in the first place. It's the fact that there is a lot of exaggeration. Now, can you make money with Bitcoin? Yes, but we're already past the point of being able to make boatloads of money with Well, the average person is already past the point of being able to make like boatloads of money with Bitcoin. At this point, you know, this is why most normal people, they're putting more focus into meme coins. They're putting more focus into altcoins because the price point is still low enough, and it still hasn't reached a ceiling. So you're still holding out hope that one of these coins that you're invested in will go to the moon to give you a better chance of making a significant amount of money. Because again, where Bitcoin is at right now, even if you have boatloads of money, you're not gonna make that much of a return unless you're trading whatchamacallit. Okay, yes, I remember now. Unless you are leverage trading, and leverage trading, everybody knows how dangerous leverage trading is. With leverage trading, you're talking about trading